This is a presentation of the article, Teachers' Beliefs about Culturally, Linguistically, and Economically Diverse Gifted Students, a Quantitative Study, written by Katharina DeWitt and E. Jean Gubbins, 2011, by Desiree Vasquez, Neivein Ahmed, and Samantha Salcedo.
Citing questions. What are some culturally responsive strategies that educators can include when assessing ELs prior and after being assessed into the gifted and talented programs? What are some challenges students or teachers may face when being assessed into these programs? How can teachers overcome the assumptions about giftedness that underlie the identification for gifted programs based on CLED students? Vintasso Basca, 2009, mentioned some benefits that may impact identified students in their social, emotional, and cognitive aspects of life. What were these benefits? Are dually identified learners, ELs, impacted positively or negatively when admitted into gifted programs? Give at least 2 examples to support your findings. What impacts do the parents have on these particular students? Give 2 examples to support your findings. Purpose and focus. To examine the effects and challenges an LBOTE CLED L student develops prior to administration into the gifted and talented programs. To view how the process of identification for L students is highlighted throughout these readings as one of the deficits and how it is overlooked upon their talents. How practical barriers and critiques are held to identify gifted and talented ELs effectively, making them one of the most underrepresented minority groups. To understand how promoting diversity and cultural inclusion helps overcome some of the challenges prior and after entering the programs, and for students themselves. To also understand standardized tests and IQ tests does not reflect the abilities of these students, and reflect on the importance of raising cultural awareness in these programs as well as its diversity.
The background of our primary article. The study aimed to understand what teachers believe about the ability of culturally, linguistically, and economically diverse students, how they should be identified, and whether and how gifted programs should be changed to accommodate these students. The study encourages that changes in gifted education practices are occurring. This study may serve to shed light on the understanding of teachers' core beliefs regarding these students. Appropriate steps can be taken to change perceptions and practices to benefit gifted students who are culturally, linguistically, and economically diverse gifted students. It provides baseline information about the beliefs that teachers across the country hold about CLED gifted students. In addition, it presented several identification procedures where it relied on test scores, especially IQ scores, to define ability as the norm with object data to determine whether students' quality for gifted programs. The trend is toward an expanded identification procedure that looks at test scores and determinative ability, actual accomplishments, students' interested, and style preferences.
Summary. Disparity. There is a disparity among the students that are included within the gifted and talented programs. The average proportion of Caucasian students in states who reported the identification of gifted students by culturally diverse groups was 76%. Black and American Indian children are overrepresented in special education classes. Factor analysis. There were 3 factors that the survey included: benefits of including CLED students in gifted programs, universality of abilities, and assessment of abilities. Analysis of demographic information. Respondents were given the survey to teachers in the following states: Florida, Georgia, Texas, Virginia, California, Colorado, Illinois, and Massachusetts. 83% of respondents were white, and 90% of them were female. 32% were in the age group between 51 and 60, with more than a third having 20 or more years of experience. Teacher survey analysis. Research question 1. What are teachers' beliefs about culturally, linguistically, and economically diverse (CLED) gifted students regarding their abilities, perspectives involving CLED students in gifted programs, and the benefits of including CLED students in gifted programs? The benefits of including CLED gifted students. Only 2 respondents strongly disagreed with the following statement. It is essential that gifted programs include CLED students. DeWitt and Govins, 2011. This shows that most teachers who completed this survey believe that it is important to include CLED students within the gifted programs. It also shows that the majority of teachers have progressed from the mindset that diverse learners are not able to be a part of these programs. Identification procedures. With this statement, identification procedures for gifted programs should be constructed in such a way that they identify all students of high ability and potential to achieve. 93% agreed, with a 53% strongly agreeing with this statement. DeWitt and Govins, 2011. This shows that teachers want all students to have the opportunity to be a part of the gifted programs rather than limiting the children based on exams such as state exam. Research question 2. How are the sample means the same or different for the scores on the dependent variable with respect to the heterogeneity of the school population in which responding teachers serve, white or CLD? Training teachers have had general classroom, bilingual, and or gifted education, and existence of a mandate for gifted education with or without. Researchers believed that there would be differences in the teachers' beliefs based on their educational training. They surveyed teachers with different types of training, such as no specialized training in gifted or bilingual education, have had gifted education training only, and have had both gifted and bilingual education training. In this analysis, training had no significant influence on beliefs of teachers. Mandate for gifted education. Researchers believed that teachers who worked in states that have mandates for gifted education programs would have a different points of view than those who worked in states that did have the mandate for the program. Inspection of the scores indicated that teachers in states with no mandates had marginally higher ratings in the benefits factor, believing more strongly in the benefits of including diverse learners.
Connection to research. The study of identifying gifted and talented English language learners, a case study by Glover, Raab, and Martins, 2009, provides an overview of current policies and practices related to gifted and EL programs, the theoretical and particular barriers to effectively identifying gifted and talent is in one school district. The study analyzed gifted and EL identification practices based on an in-depth case study of one diverse school district in the Midwest. In addition, school personnel, parents, and students participated in separate semi-structured group interviews about their experiences regarding gifted and EL identification. Results highlights the theoretical and particular barriers to identifying gifted needs effectively. These include possible population changes, state support, current programming, assessment practices, broad categories, a description of gifted and talented service in the district, and specialized practices for the EA population. The study discusses the barriers to representation in gifted programs such as first, poor communication often exists between educators who teach gifted and talented students and teachers of other special populations, such as special education and ESC students. This lack of communication reduces opportunities to observe and know children, including English children in multiple educational settings. Second, the lack of explicit identification policies regarding proper identification of gifted students from underrepresented groups is another barrier to valid and reliable identification processes for this population. The study also discussed the additional barriers to affect the practices for identifying students as gifted and talented, such as low teacher expectations of minority students, basis in standardized testing, the non-inclusive of lack of cultural relevance of our definition of giftedness, negative reactions by schools personnel toward non-English speaking students. According to Cohen, 1998, teachers may lack the knowledge and understanding of its culture, linguistics, and cognitive skills. Together, the above issues may result in a population of students whose limited English proficiency and cultural differences may disguise their talents to teachers and other school staff. The study offered multiple recommendations to school staff to overcome a little knowledge about their students' diverse cultures and how it may impact their learning and behaviors in the classroom. The interviews and other professional development activities related to understanding diverse cultures adopted a multicultural curriculum to allow all students to learn about and increase acceptance of other cultures within the school, provided materials in different languages and bilingual personnel into parents-teacher organizations meeting, after school parents sessions, school open houses. This would improve the likelihood that parents will attend such events and will help them feel more connected.
Primary Teachers' Conceptions of Giftedness by Moon and Brighton, 2008. Failure to identify and develop talent in very young children has been linked to subsequent negative outcomes in cognitive, academic, social, and affective development. This shows that it is imperative that teachers identify students' giftedness so that they do not face these negative outcomes. Teachers' beliefs about giftedness in young students. Both teachers' conceptions of giftedness and their beliefs about the abilities of their students are areas of critical consideration related to identification and talent development practices in primary school classrooms. Teachers are with the students every day and know the most about their students. Their beliefs about giftedness are so important because they need to be able to make decisions on behalf of their students with both the information they know of the students and how they perceive the gifted programs. Cultural biases. Children from disadvantaged and culturally diverse backgrounds are placed at particular risk of being overlooked for gifted program placement because they are least likely to have out-of-school support for talent development. These assumptions should not be made based on a student's socioeconomic status or cultural background. All students should be given the same opportunities without assumptions being made.
Addressing giftedness in LBOTE student population, issues and identification, professional development, and homeschool partnerships by Georgia Harris, 2014. Identifying gifted and talented. gifted and talented tests have received criticism for displaying bias against culturally diverse populations. Because of these interferences, educators must consider how to adjust these tests before distributing them to ensure it adequately serves all students regardless of cultural background. There are three biases that are consistent on these tests. They explain why a low number of LBOTE students enter gifted programs. The first bias is through linguistics, which captures proficiency levels in English. The second one, cognitive bias, is when standardized tests can identify students. And the third one, communication bias, is responding to items that are culturally different. By Bridges, Rise, Sullivan, 2008. When identifying LBOTE students, identification procedures increase when school personnel, such as teachers and non-teachers, collaborate to identify gifted students. Professional development. The underrepresentation of LBOTE students in talented programs has much to do with teachers' low expectations or stereotypical notions towards LBOTE students. It also helps school staff learn about the parents' culture and how it influences parents' behaviors towards their children. Presenting and offering the best practice to LBOTE parents help children become more successful. Lessig, 2009. Therefore, educators urge school personnel to complete professional developments to raise cultural awareness and help understand giftedness.
The study of academic and effective profiles of low-income minority and twice exceptional gifted learners. The role of gifted program membership in enhancing self by Van Diesel 2009. The study provided some evidential support for offering a counseling service to gifted students from low-income and minority family backgrounds to address effective needs, including academic planning instruction on time management and coaching of positive peer relationships. The primary research goal of this study was to examine the impact of 4 years of gifted program membership on a targeted group of special needs gifted learners. The guiding research question was how well are these at-risk students doing in cognitive and effective development now that they have been identified as gifted and placed in special programs. The study focused on qualitative interviews using purposefully selected students, parents, and teachers as the study participants. The study attempted to ascertain the prescriptive of gifted students to sub-analysis as low-income white students, low-income African American students, low-income other minority students, twice experiential learners, and students with high non-verbal and low-verbal profiles. Summary of findings. Different prototypes revealed different partners of strengths and weakness, preferences, and prescriptions about learning. African American low-income learners struggle with losing their social group by participating in the gifted program, still preferring to be a part of the original network. Low-income Caucasian students gladly took up the mantle of friendship in that gifted program. Twice exceptional students reported different struggles related to keeping up in both regular classwork and the gifted program. The high non-verbal, low-verbal group found comprehension strategies for being successful in the gifted program through creative outlets and using other skills sets such as leadership. The study's results shows several of these students, for example, had only one area of academic strength and exhibited problem with motivation and performance in school. There is a clear need for adapting and accommodating curriculum and instruction to students who don't fit the typical factors of educational opportunities to enhance learning. And our primary article is both article is nested in models of resilience and self-efficacy that posit promising students from low-income backgrounds, minority students, and others with special learning needs can benefit from opportunities that build on their characteristics and beliefs, as well as their perseverance and motivation, and thus extended their sense of self-efficacy.
Recommendations. One recommendation is to keep L students and parents actively engaged with their school. One way to promote involvement is by providing translators to families. Parents will feel more welcome and at ease and comfortable with the child's school, especially when having access in their own language to talk about the child's success. Translators will also help facilitate interactions across teachers and school officials about the child's giftedness. Schools, districts, and teachers should offer literacy workshops for families where they can get the chance to collaborate with teachers and students on developing effective planning on educating their children in school and at home. Suggesting educational activities will help students to be educated in their home language and educational system. Integrating cultural images in the school, such as paintings, words, or phrases in other language, will also help families feel welcome. Schools' identification process should learn to find ways to consider students' cultural backgrounds and incorporate them into the giftedness program and identification procedure, instead of just focusing on formal assessments such as nonverbal testing, comprehension, and teaching referrals. Also, for teachers, instead of seeking negative factors to exclude LBOTE students from gifted programs, the identification process is more accessible when teachers collaborate with one another and seek together student strengths. Workshops about gifted programs should also be accessible to parents where culture and diversity is driven for minority groups and where they can also learn more about gifted and talented programs and seek ways to be able to help their child at home.
So what does this mean for our low-income students and diverse students? Well, because they question things more deeply and they feel race and culture and class issues more intensely, they may appear argumentative or defiant. Some students, like Alex, have intense interests that have absolutely nothing to do with the curriculum. Other students may become leaders outside of school or against non-traditional students. And some come to reading late. So all of this sounds like a teacher's worst nightmare, right? And especially in this high intensity testing environment where teachers are forced to focus on the bubble kids, preparing them for tests in reading and writing and math. Other students and other intelligences are deprioritized. I think it's important that we pay attention to these class clowns and know-it-alls, because when school stops firing the imagination, students get bored. They want to drop out, and they become at risk. And when students give up on the system because the institution fails to recognize their innate gifts, they might go looking for that recognition elsewhere.
Conclusions. Although L population has increased rapidly, school staff have prioritized providing services and assistance to these students when necessary. However, bilingual gifted education teachers translate concepts that are taught into the language that students understand. There are two different types of gifted education programs in elementary schools. One, pull-out, and two, full-time. The pull-out program is located at both elementary schools and consists of specialized teachers, classes, and programming. The full-time gifted education program consists of a small class and focuses on problem-solving, creativity, and analysis skills. According to Klinger and Polito, Schools that follow the traditional culturally responsive model are essential. It is also important to implement more cultural programs and develop more strategies where families can feel welcomed and included in their child's education. That way, they can also be meaningful. In order to have successful programs, it is imperatively important for educators to overlook the underrepresentation of these minority groups and look for ways to develop culturally appropriate identification procedures. It is also important for teachers to view minority groups of students in different lenses, not just cognitively, where students who are not only culturally and linguistically diverse, but also economically diverse gifted students, where higher compensations strategies for being successful can be applied to the admissions of each student, using diverse characteristics and their diverse abilities by differentiating instruction and inference depending on their learning needs.